team, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and today I wanted to share with you a little bit about developing acceptance of contact versus submission to the bit. One of the things that I got drilled a lot when I was training professionally and in the competition career is a lot of the frame needs to be rounder, the frame needs to be deeper, you need more submission to the bit, and that if they had a high head carriage or if they were nose was in front of the vertical, they were naughty, they were resistant, and the instructors they would seem to be in fear of being out of control. And when you have those really heavy-handed assertive bit pressure cues of submission to the bit equals the roundness of the frame, and therefore the ability to hold equals the roundness of the frame, it would you end up in that conflict with the horse where they're fighting so much to come into that frame with their head carriage and their neck carriage that when they do throw their head up in the air and they toss their head up in the air, it is resistance to the hand because the hands have been so at them and so heavy-handed, and so you no longer have brakes at that point. And so we end up with this problem where the horses don't understand what we want from them, and because you only have two hands that are applying pressure to the horse's mouth to communicate so many different things to the horse. So how does the horse differentiate between a bit pressure cue that is for, say, the halt aid or the reinback aid versus the bit pressure cue that is asking for the frame to be rounder and deeper and whatnot? So it's important that we have that differentiation for the horse's sake, so that we don't have that, that confusion that leads to them putting their head in the air and running through the bit and grabbing the bit and taking the bolt, those kinds of things. So what we're looking at with our bit pressure is we're looking at an acceptance of contact. So it's a level of acceptance of your hands being in their mouth with the bit. Why would the horse have acceptance, trust, and confidence in our hands being in their mouth applying pressure through the bit? Well, to begin with, we need to have soft, gentle hands that aren't going to hurt their mouth and create pain to their mouth and do damage to their mouth and their tongue. And so this is where it becomes so important to have our groundwork, is that if the horses don't know how to seek the release of pressure, if we don't know how to mark the correct behavior, if we have a breakdown in communication, then in the saddle it does come down to that bit pressure, and it does come down to whether the horse is going to understand and differentiate these different bit cues and be able to stop off of bit cues, or if we're going to be scared of the horse and therefore reliant on the bit pressure to try and pull them to the halt and over using our hands to get that. So we're looking at developing communication, and my favorite place to do acceptance of contact work is on the ground with the in-hand work, because you aren't in a vulnerable position. If the horse is going to lose its nana and ping off, then you're not stuck on its back. So you're not as scared in the work that you're doing with the horse. So the pressure that you're putting into their mouth can be kinder because you're not applying it through fear. You're also having to, one of the problems that I have with students, especially in the walk, is them not putting enough effort into holding themselves, like particularly in walk, because we can get a bit bored as the rider in the walk, and because there's no moment of suspension from the horse, it's going to mean that we can kind of slack off a little bit and be a little couch potato on their back. And so if we're not putting effort into our posture, then we're not going to be using our hands for kindness. And so when we're doing our in-hand work, because we're walking, we have to put effort into carrying ourselves and holding ourselves. And, we do have to stop and have a break if we're getting tired, rather than just collapsing in the saddle and being little couch potatoes when when it's not working. And so then we're not going to transfer that slackness of riding into the horse's mouth because we're not willingly, carrying our own hands. So there's multiple things that we're looking at when it comes to acceptance of contact. One of the first things when I'm working with the absolute beginner riders is, just the condition and the strength of the rider to be able to keep their hands in that nice place of carriage so that you get like tired in your arms, and so you end up resting your hands on the front of the saddle, and that in itself is going to apply contact to the horse's mouth, and they're going to brace against it. So we're teaching ignorance to the contact even at that point because of our own, muscle condition to be able to hold our hands for that entire period of time. And so just even the resistance that we get to contact, a lot of that resistance, the two main things that we're looking at is, does your horse know the answer to the aid that you're applying with your hands? And then do you have hands that your horse can have trust and confidence in so that they can relax into that contact? And so now what we can do is we can have our horses relax into our hands. And so then that's where that roundness of frame comes from, rather than the bracing against our hand for fear of pain or because it hurts them or because we're not carrying our own hands. And then we can develop language with the horse where they, the rein is the word is follow. And so we can ask them to follow the rein into different postures and different shapes and different exercises. And so now we're building a language of communication, and within that language of communication with the horse, we can create more elastic movement with them, which is what makes the frame deeper. So we're not looking at creating a rounder frame because of how assertive our hands can be, because it's instantaneously. There's no other way for the horse to respond to us other than to brace the neck and put their weight on the forehand. Because as soon as we put our hands assertively into their mouth, their neck switches on so as not to lose balance and fall over. As soon as the neck switches on, the underneck switches on, it's going to ground the forehand so they're not picking their shoulders up properly anymore. And so now we have the neck braced against our hand and the shoulders grounded, the horse is on the forehand. And we can see this even in high-level collected movements where the rider hasn't understood how to get relaxation into contact, relaxation into the hand, and acceptance of contact, because they've just got heavier and heavier and heavier handed as they've gotten more effective as a rider. And so the horse can't truly relax, so they just get into a deeper frame, but they're still traveling on the forehand, not properly engaged from behind, not functionally using their hindquarters, not able to give relaxation and swing. So we want to make sure that we have hands that our horse can have trust and confidence in, so that it's going to be able to relax into our hands and not brace against it. And then what we're looking for is that they seek our hands for direction. They seek that contact for direction from us. They know that the hands are going to bring them communication for what we're going to ask them to do. And so there's a couple of factors here as well, is that we need to have a relationship with the horse to seek direction from us. Why would the horse seek direction from us? And that's part of our holistic horse handling skills, our compassionate leadership skills, is who are you to your horse that they would seek direction from you? And then how are you applying your hands with the contact so that it's not creating brace, so that it's creating trust and confidence in your hands? And then that is going to allow your horse to develop acceptance of contact, because they can relax into, have trust and confidence in your hand, and then seek it for direction. So you can see there where we're really delving into, a far more complex area, but it's far better for the horse and the rider to have this language where we're developing acceptance of contact for communication, rather than just submission to contact. When the only question you ask is there resistance or submission, then we're really limiting the quality of the conversation and how far we're going to get in our training. That's it from me for today. Until next time, happy trails.